names are Meredith and Cassidy. As students interested in politics and citizens of the globe, we set out on a journey across the Western Balkans to see how art functions in communities across the region.
How and why do people use art? What sort of funding do artistic communities receive? Can art produce and communicate objective truth in post-conflict society?
How do different generations engage with art? What kind of future is possible for these artistic communities? We had a million questions and no answers.
On August 3rd, we left Zagreb, Croatia, and set out for Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
We made our way to Arseyevi, where we spoke with Elisa, an employee at this contemporary art museum and an active member of the art community in Sarajevo.
Every artwork has its own, not beauty in some aesthetical, conventional way, but it has some philosophical background. During some years we had support from government, but it wasn't enough and they stopped financing us, and it has to do a lot with a political situation. Because it's complicated. Cultural context in this city, in this country, is in a bad situation. I hope that in a few years from now on, we will have our own building, our own museum. It has to start with educational system. There has to be some kind of lectures that are dedicated to introducing art, to educate people when it comes to art in general, but especially contemporary art.
We just went to Arseyevi. We met an employee, Elisa. She gave us, we asked if maybe she could put us in contact with some people, and she gave us a contact.
A PhD candidate.
And she's studying the establishment and the role of art during the siege.
Yeah.
So what we're
Perfect.
doing, very cool.
Can't wait to email
Cross
her.
fingers.
Yeah.
What happened here, it's part of our own history, it's 21st century history, so we have to acknowledge that in ways. We have that responsibility as well. There are so many layers, it's just this, the issue is so complex that you need to have people around you to discuss. We were sharing, we were sitting around this big table. It was maybe the best time of my life somehow.
Let's say 50% of the people, they say the war is over, we have to move on, so we don't want to talk about that. And then on the other side, you actually have people who has a need to actually talk about that because they say the war is not over yet. And then when you talk with artists, those who left and those who are here, there is this sense of guilt. So it's always like there is no space for you to express your own feeling because there is always someone else in Bosnia who had suffered more. And then I found Mevludin drawings.
All began at the beginning of April 1992 when I passed the bridge upon the river Sava, and I couldn't return because they destroyed it later. I remained on the other side, outside of Bosnia, confused and with a nostalgia which appeared to me unexpectedly. The alternative I had was to note the tragic events in my way. Confused by all these unlikely events, surprised and astonished, I began to wake up asking myself continuously one question: why? Mevludin Ekmecic, Tuzla, February 1995.
You would think that he was here, that he was actually looking at those people, at those faces, but he was actually reading newspapers and watching the news on TV. Somehow, there is less money here, and every time they produce an exhibition, if they want to be recognized abroad, they always have to spend money to publish the catalog both in Bosnian and English.
Artists from Bosnia always feel a little like second-class citizens.
community, because probably the best way that we have to deal with this heavy and painful past is to sit together, to share a safe space, and to have meaningful conversation and to exchange ideas and experiences. So I really hope that that a community will be created.
Just creating a community that focuses on healing and these tough universal conversations about what war and trauma can mean to people.
Mm-hmm.
Upon Claudia's recommendation, we stopped by Brodat's gallery to meet Mac, an artist and the gallery's founder. He and his friends were kind enough to talk to us about their work.
That kind of price.
If we're talking about finances and budgets and like paying for something here, keep the gallery running for 1 month. That's what we do.
What about Sarajevo specifically, makes space like this so
The people
valuable?
who stand behind it, Sarajevo people that were born here, raised here with the mentality and education and everything else belongs. It's the spirit. Yeni Slovka. It's the spirit of the place.
This morning, Claudia was talking about some artists that she's worked with and how they feel pressure to create art that has to do with the conflict.
They exploited this subject so much that it's like washed. Nothing. It's totally losing the color. But it's a tragedy. It's a big thing, and it's never. They never put it on that level, of very serious thing. Everybody could do whatever they want.
It was mentioned that an artist's job is to educate. So what do you, as an artist, want to teach people that see your work?
I don't want to teach them anything more than to show the real image of something. Take some covers or masks that they put around their realities.
Can art ever represent the truth?
Art is the tool. Imagine one building with a lot of facades. Art is just taking the light of facades to get to the ground, to the building, to the core. That's maybe the way how art can feel.
Trying to collect books again, but mostly art books, so students can also sometimes come here do some research.
Yeah.
We know how hard it is to find quality information and on art, these topics. And Books for Bullets was born. Forgive but don't forget.
Both Claudia and Elisa mentioned the Historical Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina, so we decided to take a look. We discovered war photographs, memorabilia, and artifacts from the time of the siege in Sarajevo.
People had posted sticky notes.
Messages of peace or
Right.
apologies.
Hey, look, this is happening again in Syria.
They were calls for action and peace building. There was an exhibit by a British artist named Brian Eno. It was this contemporary piece that incorporated light and sound and glass.
And it was really eerie.
That was an interesting juxtaposition with the war photos.
We wanted to know more about the intention behind these exhibits, so we spoke with the museum's curator.
What of projects, for example, these projects we are working with the Museum of Vojvodina about how do people in the past, how they basically remember that, and how do young people who are learning about it and their opinion about that. So it is quite important for us to make in collaboration. I'm hoping that there's basically museum became the place where the young people coming together, exchanging ideas, they are making the friendships, sparing the loves. The dialogue is most important things, because with the dialogue we can do anything. We have enough love to each other.
Maybe that can start at this museum.
After 8 days in Sarajevo, we got back on the bus and headed to Belgrade, the capital of Serbia.
We knew we wanted to speak with local artists, so we emailed as many as we could find. This is how we connected with Bax at Belgrade Art Studio.
Art is all about collaboration, and in a way, even though we artists are kind of individuals, we have to build some kind of community. Building friendship really is building a strong community. Build community, have artists, friends, and collaborate on projects we could not do on our own, actually. It's much better if you have someone else who could help you or collaborate. Or our lives are influenced by politics, so let's say we just cannot skip it in art as well. If our lives are influenced by something, art is influenced as well.
How much do you know about the street art community in Belgrade?
It is quite popular because young artists, they tend to express themselves in that way. If you're forbidden to express yourself, then you're not satisfied. That's why it's street art. It should be in streets, Art is always there when there are some kind of issues going on, because some people cannot understand it directly if they just read the news or listen to the politicians. Art is a nicer way to introduce all those issues. Art can make stronger impression than just all those talks and discussions. It's really helpful, especially for youth and kids. They sometimes do not understand something, and when it's presented, let's say through art, it's totally different.
After our meeting with Bax, we had the chance to sit down with Lola from Belgrade's Center for Cultural Decontamination, an independent cultural institution based on critical thinking and cultural and artistic production.
They shared with us an example of how to communicate challenging social issues to children through art.
So this is the Young Migrant Guide to the Human Rights Galaxy. The migrants themselves, especially the young ones, they're on the road, that didn't finish the schools, have no possibility to educate themselves, do not understand, what human rights are. Use the Universal Declaration of Universal Rights, but interpret it in a way that everybody can understand. Maybe it's a good start, because in order to understand when their rights are being violated, they need to understand what the human rights are.
At this point in our research, we were noticing several recurring themes in our interviews. 1. There seemed to be potential in the power of the artistic community to engage the public in complex social issues. People such as Claudia, Mac, Baz, and Lola were working to connect these communities internationally. 2. Artists felt it was important to involve and educate young people in these efforts.
3. Artistic and cultural funding proved an issue for these organizations. There was value in remaining independent of government mandates to ensure artistic integrity. However, this came with a price. 4. What is the responsibility of an artist in a post-conflict society? We had yet to receive a consensus. Some artists felt pressured to focus exclusively on the past, whereas others felt it was their duty to expose it.
Educational system in Serbia doesn't give them explanation. It doesn't give them history or facts or whatever. It gives them some very superficial version actually of the story.
I think that to talk to young people and to share our experience and knowledge and to spread the word about what's happening here is very important for us.
All these organizations we've been visiting keep mentioning a lack of youth engagement in human rights or a lack of human rights culture. And after having studied art in Sarajevo and now in Belgrade, what if art is part of that solution to generating that culture in the next generation?
We stopped by the recently opened and highly anticipated Contemporary Art Museum of Belgrade. The museum opened in the last month after being closed for nearly a decade.
So it's seems like this museum deals with art from the end of World War I to like 1980. Those were the golden years of Yugoslavia when Tito was president. Their post-war period that's being talked about in this museum refers to like post-World War II.
Right.
But a lot of the same themes of like rejection of war, man's capability to like hurt another man could also be applied in art made today.
But it's not
But
here.
it's not here.
We asked 2 German art students who were attending the museum about their impressions.
Actually, I wanted to see it because I've been to Belgrade a few times and I knew about the problem that it's closed for a while now. I like it, but I'm used to much better exhibitions.
Not brave.
Yeah, it's
Not
not
brave.
brave. I mean, there could be a lot of more critical art.
I would like it sometimes if like the artist says a bit more about their projects, like the background, and so that you can understand it a bit better. Even if like any artist is not a part of a political institution, the artist himself has an opinion, and so it's not objective anymore.
I think any kind of art, even if you do abstract art and try to not have a topic, that's the topic that
Why do you think
maybe
that's
is
so
also nice.
valuable, that type of art that entertains maybe more controversial subjects?
To make you think, to, I don't know, to give you some material you can think about in a more fun way. It's more fun to watch a picture or a documentary or something than read a historical book with just facts.
Do you think artists have a responsibility to be political?
It's just about how you communicate it and how you stand behind it. I mean, you just have to be open and say, I'm just doing it because it's fun.
It's only like an authentic way when the artist really wants to do it. It's forced to do it, then there's no good message behind it.
And then I also think you can do activism, which is often is mixed up with art.
Our last stop in Belgrade was to meet with Katarina, a street art tour guide with Belgrade Alternative Guide, who attributed the growing popularity of street art in Belgrade to the lack of support of cultural institutions.
Museum of Contemporary Art also. It was closed for more than, I think, 7 years, 6-7 years, and reopened this year also. Officially because of restoration, but of course nothing is being restored that long. So a lot of young people try to get together and to try to do something for the art.
While the street art movement was spurred by inconsistent political will to fund the arts, much of the art itself was not designed to have an explicit political message.
The Meeting of Styles Festival is an annual street art festival which brings together dozens of street artists from around the world to collaborate on one mural. Each year, they select a theme and dominant color. Many of the festival's murals are located on the outsides of Belgrade schools.
Different artists do each part of the mural in their own style.
After the tour, we met up with Katarina's friends who took us to make some street art of our own.
Alien green.
Feel here is quicker than you'd think. The way in some jet-lag bar, they're pouring the wine from over their heads and sit back down again.
After our bus broke down in the middle of Serbia, we made it to Pristina, Kosovo.
Our first meeting here was with Dia from the Documentation Center, which is an organization whose focus is on documenting human rights violations in Kosovo during the 90s. Dia mentioned the organization's engagement with the local artistic community.
We started with one of the survivors. We first helped in the exhibition. We got involved somehow. So the curator of the exhibition showed us other similar stories and how the whole art can be actually serving two sides, to documenting understanding and also, let's say, personal healing. Whenever you offer somebody something very objective, like for example the facts of a trial or something, it leaves with no conclusion. This is it. The same thing is with art. It's just out there and it shows you something, and it's no end. It leads to nothing, and it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it.
We went to the National Gallery of Kosovo, where native artist Sizli Jaffa was exhibiting his work in which he explores concepts of politics, forced migration, belonging, and uncertainty.
Little did we know we were in for a surprise.
What? It smells like cows. No. What? What? Art.
After 3 days in Pristina, we returned to Bosnia, but this time to Mostar, where we met Ruba, a local tour guide who introduced us to the city and talked to us about the local art.
Well, art is very, very valuable, especially because city of Mostar is a city of very creative people, not only painters, but also musicians and poets. Unfortunately, after the war, the support for these projects stops because it stopped being priority. People started just painting the walls of the city, and now it has one of the most valuable street art festival in the region, so it shows how art is really important and always find a way, regardless the political context. Without that, there would be no message from the real people of Mostar because everything is hidden with political agendas and propaganda. If you paint a message somewhere on the wall, everyone is going to see it. Without that, we wouldn't know that there are normal people here in Mostar. We would think everyone is nationalist and radical and fascist. We had people from all around the world coming to draw something, to paint something on our walls. Mostari walls are always for tolerance, for freedom. Artists here, they don't support these divisions and nationalism, so they are the group that unites. And it's very important to keep that spirit as long as possible here, because that's the only thing that heals.
So there you have it, Art Heals. After 3 weeks, 11 interviews, 5 cities, and 6 countries, a lot of people had told us what art is and what it can do.
Art has the ability to unify communities in order to weaken cycles of hatred and violence and help individuals overcome trauma. However, the identity of artists in societies such as these is often reduced to that of a victim of the conflict, and they may feel limited in creating art that expands beyond this identity. Our research entertained all of these themes, affirming them in some ways and complicating them in others.
The arches here were built 'cause they don't fall. The cat day draws to make you feel small. You might find your small soul. Believe the preaching to the president. The crowd cheers.